Okay, I think I'm live right now, guys. Let me check. All right. What's going on, guys? What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Sharon? Thank you. You was here early last time too. Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Shalom. All glory. I'm curious, what's TMH? All glory to TMH. Oh, the Most High. Okay, I'm assuming. What's going on? Um, oh, from France. What's up, man? Taimoko. I gotta forgive me for pronunciation. I usually crucify pronunciations a lot. I appreciate that. Bug, Bogwupog. Interesting. Appreciate that. Nice to see you live, bro. Love this. Appreciate that, man. Pay the piper. We got some interesting things to talk about today, man. So, yeah, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. So I want to ideally I want to do lives like Monday and Friday. Um, there's a reason why I'm doing this live again. I did a live on, I believe it was Tuesday. Sometimes all the days run together, and I apologize about my voice ahead of time. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so the idea is to try and do lives every Monday and Wednesday. I want to kind of bring in a week with you guys, and then end out the week with you guys as well. I really want you guys to have, a good weekend and a good start to the week as well. Greetings from Jamaica. Big up, man. My mom is Jamaican. She's from Mandeville, Pollen County. Yeah, right, 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 right. The pollen here is crazy. Yes, sir. What part of Jamaica you from? What's going on, Ash? So what are your plans for the weekend, guys? Like, so for me, I'm a big boxing fan. So there's this. I think it's tomorrow. The fight between Mitchell and Camboso, I believe. Cambosis or Camboso. I used to do some amateurish boxing back in the day in college. So, I'm really big into boxing. So that's pretty much what I'm gonna be doing this weekend. Montego Bay, okay. Wow, wow, West, man. Yeah, I heard some things about Montego Bay, man. What's going on, UK? Okay, man. The UK be y'all support, man. Definitely. I know a lot of UK people. I listen to Amos Wilson Oh wow, that's what's up. I never really got into his books and his content. Well, I mean like his books mostly, but I need to get more into that. Another subscriber of mine was telling me about Amos Wilson. I think he's important, so maybe I should read some of his material. Hi from Virginia, the Shy Wizard. What's going on? No King's Pride Farmers Market. I don't know what No Kings is, Sharon. Farmers Market. Okay. Oh, there's a protest going on? Damn, I'm like embarrassing myself right now. I know, there's a lot going on in LA, definitely. Is there like a counter protest? I'm a little confused. Stay safe, please. People like you are treasures. I don't know if you're talking to me, but I appreciate that. Greetings from Toronto. I used to live in Richmond Hill in Canada for like 2 years. My wife is Canadian. So I was up there for like 2 years. Appreciate that, Michael. It's 18,000 coordinated. Wow. Really? Like, I'm actually curious now. Like, what are you guys protesting precisely? You have some nice carpentry work behind you. Appreciate that, man. Or I don't know if you're male or female. Abundant. Man, these names. Abundantia. Okay. Um, yeah. So my wife found a guy who does um woodwork, and he came to the house and he did some woodwork for us, and he did all this. Like, this wasn't actually part of my home. He did the bookcase and everything. So I appreciate that. I wish I can give you like his card or information. Well, I guess you would have to be from this area. Yeah, Toronto is lovely, man. I like Toronto. Trump is having a military parade in honor of what? He's having a parade for his birthday? Huh. Can I make a video on the Igbo people and Yoruba people in Nigeria? I guess I can redo a video like that. I'm pretty sure I've done a video on the Yoruba and the Igbo. Maybe you can type in Igbo home team history and Yoruba home team history. I'd love to update those videos, by the way. I think I can do a better job and just give more information in there. What's going on, guys? No way. I've been here for a couple years too. YouTube come visit from time to time. Toronto, Gongo. I visit there occasionally, at least once a year. Like, I may go to Canada because my wife's family's up there, so at least once a year, we may go up there. No King's protests all across the U.S. I gotta check that out, man. Like, that's okay. So the topic of the video is about because I see Issa. It's about a new discovery in Africa that changes the history books. So I'm about to get to that. I just want to take some time to get people in there. Yeah. So yeah, tell me your plans for the weekends, guys. Like, I know somebody's doing a protest. Sharon is going to do the protests, and she's going to farmers market, which is dope. That's what's up. You, sir, are incredible. Thank you. I appreciate that, Warren. Do you box home slice? I don't know. Do I box home slice? Not sure what you mean there. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you guys saw the previous video I made with the mythological creatures video. Smoking. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that video I did with the mythological creatures video. Like I said before in my last live, Josh, he's our animator. He's the home team animator, and he's doing a fantastic job, man. Like, I really can't give him any more plaudits, man. Like, the dude is incredible. If you guys saw the last video I did on the mythological creatures, you will see. Appreciate that, Worldwide Welds. I'll read your comment real quick. Why'd you change the intro? LOL. The drums. So oh my gosh, that's a good question, man. I don't want to forget what I'm saying. Shout out to Josh, man. I'm gonna answer your question. Worldwide. Josh did the animation. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. Like, his work is incredible, man. Like, the quality of it is exceptional. And additionally, it really looks like anime. Like, I don't know if you guys are into anime or whatever, but it kind of looks like One Punch Man to me. Like, that's how good the quality is, in my personal opinion. It's amazing. That's the direction we're trying to go on this channel. Like, every video, full animation. It's very expensive. So the patrons, you guys are literally the ones supporting this and making this happen. So that's the direction that we're going in the mythological creatures video, that style of animation. So there will be like some 3D and stuff like that, but it's primarily like the style that you see in that video, pretty much, with the Kishi in particular, the Kishi segment. Oh my goodness. I loved it. When he showed it to me, I was really excited about it. And it seemed from the comments you guys really liked it as well. That's the direction we want to go in. So definitely support the Patreon. Your Patreon support is what's paying Josh and his good work, man. I'm gonna put in a plug for that later because I can't stress that enough. Anyway, so real quick, why'd you change your intro? The intro was dope. I got a copyright strike ultimately, and I can't use it anymore, pretty much. So a long time ago, I paid for the intro, and I guess my the license I got expired perhaps, and then they pulled my card essentially, so I can't use it anymore. I apologize about that. I know a lot of people were talking about that, and you really enjoyed it. Appreciate that, Worldwide Welds again. Take your time. I've been wondering, and so, bro, you were disgruntled, man. I was hot. No, I wasn't mad about it, but I was just like, man, like that was a good intro, man. Like yeah. So look, trust me, I felt the same way, man. Definitely. I appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you so much. Um, Appreciate that, Honorine. You said you really enjoyed the animation. Yo, Hyacinth, man, like I'm telling you, Josh he's a beast. He's a beast, and his team is amazing. They just need, the money to keep going, and this channel can go to the next level. Licensing is often complicated. Yes, yes, it is, Sharon, definitely. Terrell, man, that was such a long time ago. Like, I don't remember the name or yeah, I apologize about that. I'm sorry. What happened to you, homie? From homie, he's been absent for a while. So, yeah, from nothing. I was talking to him the other day. Actually, I don't know if I should say it. He got something in store for you guys. He's here. I'll tell you that. He got something in store for you guys. He's here. So, um, everything is good. We're from nothing. He's cool, man. That's my boy. Um, all right, so let's get more into the video. So y'all saw the animation. It seems like you guys, like it, man. The quality, that's the type of quality I was always reaching toward, man. Like, and he sort of exemplifies just the vision. His animation style is like the apotheosis of what I want this channel to be. Like that, the quality. You guys deserve that. You guys have been rocking with me for a very long time. And it's really time for the channel, I think, to get to the next level. I've been really stagnant for some time now. I've been also very burnt out, um, and I'm back ultimately. Creating content and trying to engage more. Because when I first came on to YouTube, I wasn't really engaging like that. It was a personality. I don't want to say personality flaw, but like it wasn't really part of my personality. But I see the value of it. When I first started the channel, I was really expecting like a small community because I'm more of a private dude. I know that kind of contradicts me putting content online. But anyway, because I just really cared about African history and I really wanted to incorporate it into popular culture because of the kids I was teaching. I thought it was like purpose-filled work, if you will. And I was expecting a small community, but you guys really like enjoyed it. You guys supported it. You guys saw the value in it. And it just kind of like blew up from there. And me being this sort of only child introvert type of dude, that was it was kind of it was a little overwhelming, to be honest. But now I'm coming more into just enjoying and accepting what this is, and I have to engage more. My wife has been telling me that. My team has been telling me that. Um, but yeah, and it just helps overall. So I appreciate that, guys. Home team, you gotta do boxing videos now. Hey, that would be cool. So one of the things my team and I have been talking about, and I apologize, I'm going to be missing some comments and some information. But one of the things my team has been talking about is doing an additional channel where we just do straight up animated mythology, pretty much like the video I just did recently with the mythological creatures. So it'll be full animation, and it'll be that style essentially, and it will be just focused on African mythology. Man, there's so many stories, man, on African mythology that are like so interesting, and you learn so much about just the people in general, just by their mythological ideas, just by their stories. It's similar to, say, Japanese animation. Like I learned so much about the Japanese language, the people, the culture, their proclivities in general as a people group, just by watching their animation. And I think we can do something similar with Africa as well. And so, yeah, that's the direction we want to go in. So I'm really curious what you guys think about an additional channel just focused to African mythology. because we've been, my team and I have been thinking about doing something like that. So all right, so okay, so there's a this live is going to be about this new African discovery. So the discovery took place in 2010. Appreciate that, Sonic King. Thank you so much for the super chat. Um, so in the video, this video is about a new African discovery, and it happened in 2010. And you guys are gonna be like, man, bro, like this happened in 2010. This is not a new discovery. Like, why are you trying to clickbait, essentially? However, when it comes to say like archaeology, when it comes to history, whenever they make a discovery, these things take so much time to get into just popular culture, if you will, or just a textbook. It takes years, almost decades, to get into a textbook and to be sort of common knowledge, if you will. So this discovery in 2010, in my opinion, is recent because the scholars are just now, not just now, but they've been like discussing this new discovery and seeing like whether it's valid or not, or seeing whether, okay, is this legitimate? Because you can't just have this new discovery and say, okay, let's put it in the history books. Like it's a long, drawn out process, and it's a necessary process. And I think it's understandable. So, in my opinion, this is a new discovery, and one of the reasons to justify the new discovery idea is that um, it's a paradigm shifter. It's a huge paradigm shift. Like it will change the history books if they're able to affirm this, if they're able to legitimize this or find it legitimate, then you have to change the narrative. You have to change the history books. I appreciate that. No more sleeping. Thank you so much. 100%. Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, it takes a lot of time, guys, when you're making discoveries in archaeology. And this is like an archaeological dig, an archaeological discovery on the African continent. So, what did these guys discover? Thank you, Taro, for asking that question. I'm going to get to it. Worldwide Wells. Appreciate the super chat. Wish you had a call in. I always envision a home team Black Sands. Man, you speaking to the choir, man. Okay. So when I mentioned a call in last time, or somebody else mentioned a call in segment last time, and somebody commented at one point, it was like, call-ins can be, because he had, I guess, some experience with podcasts, and he said call-ins can be like pretty complicated. It's a lot of techie stuff. Essentially you need a team to do call-ins, and I'm not like that yet. I'm not at that level. It's just me doing these lives. So I really don't. If I do call-ins, like I want it to be fluid, man. I don't want many hiccups. I mean, I want it to be fluid. I don't want it to interrupt, anything with, technical difficulties. So I need to do research on it, and I need to speak to my team to see if I can get support in it. I'm taking that comment at face value. I'm believing him at face value that it's complicated. But when I start doing my research on it, I'll see. But he said, like, man, like you're gonna need a team for that. Essentially, it's not easy. So I do want to do call-ins, man. Like honestly, I do. Like I think it's dope. Anyway, so what is this new African discovery? If you've been rocking with me for the past 6 months, I'd say 6 months to a year, you know that I've been trying to harp on this as much as I can. The iron smelting discovery in the Central African Cameroon region of Africa, pretty much the heart of Africa. So yeah, here's a map right here. All right, so I don't know if you guys, think you guys can see it. There's a little glare, at least on my end. Okay, so the iron smelting technology they found was in like, I believe this area right here, essentially the heart of Africa, right in the heart of Africa, right here, Central Africa, Northern Cameroon, I believe. So right about here. So these people ostensibly would have been Niger Congo speakers. I think we can make that safe assumption because essentially the Bantu migration or expansion, like started from there. So, and the Bantu migration was way before the iron smelting. So yeah. Uh, Brad Boss, appreciate the super chat. Yo, where have you been, bro? This is the first time I've seen an update in a while. That's interesting because YouTube, I think, has changed their algorithm. So if you weren't like consistently watching my videos, they're not gonna recommend it to you. Before, like they would just recommend it to you because you were a subscriber, but it seems as though they kind of switched it up. Worldwide Wells, appreciate the super chat, man. Let's take up a collection, right, and get you some promotion on the Star Report. It's time to grow important channels. Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention the Black Sands. Black Sands was cool, man. He reached out to me a long time ago. I forgot what it was for, to be honest. Um, but at the time, like I didn't see us. We didn't like. Not that I disagree with him or anything. It's just we we didn't align at that moment in time. But he seems cool. I love what he's doing. I think he was on that show like trying to raise money or something like that. I support him 100%, man. I think I backed one of his. I think I gave him some money. I supported his vision. Look, man, like every people group, which is important, they support their stuff. They support what they want to see ultimately. Like all these movies, um, all these great productions, they put their money where their mouth is, man. Ultimately, and there's an extensive history of Black people essentially being barred from the mainstream economy, and so we've experienced a lot of poverty as a group. But even in our poverty, we've still been able to support each other and create things. And a lot of times those things were taken away via violence, vigilante violence. I don't want to preach to the choir. You guys know what's up. But I know, like, even though we never really had the funds as much, we can still support our own, support what we want to see. um, Appreciate that, Beth Mbatia. Thank you so much for that super chat. Um, really appreciate that. Okay. Where was I? Okay, so we're talking about iron smelting in Africa. Okay, so they found it. I showed you the map in around the Central African region, Central African Republic, the modern country of Central African Republic. Ostensibly, they were Niger Congo speakers. These were literally our direct ancestors. Ultimately, what they found was that um, this was the first place human beings, Homo sapiens, created iron smelting. This is where iron smelting began. This was the place. Central African Republic, northern parts of Cameroon, that region, the heart of Africa, literally our direct ancestors. That that is exceptional. And I wanted to show you guys a quote from a book from Christopher Ehret. I don't know if you guys know Christopher Ehret. Like I quote Christopher Ehret so much. He's like one of the leading scholars in ancient Africa, I would say, personally. Um, Appreciate that, Worldwide Welds. People go back and watch the videos. Home team touched on so many of the topics you guys are suggesting. I'm a welder. This is my topic. Dang, you're a welder. Wow, that's what's up, man. Man, that's beautiful. Wow. So this is right up your alley, man. Like, man. So okay. So Christopher Ehret, he's one of the leading scholars when it comes to ancient Africa. I personally consider him up there. Like whatever he says is golden, if you will. I'd say that. When it comes to ancient Africa. So his book, I highly recommend this book. It's called Ancient Africa: Global History to 300 CE. Christopher Ehret. And this came out in 2023 or 2024, around there. So this is a very recent book. And in this book on page 37, I'll show it to you real quick. Because some people say, I'll be lying or whatever. Okay. Okay, so I highlighted it. I read this book a while back. It's this section right here. So I'm giving away like critical stuff in his book. Like this to me is like the best part of the book, in my personal opinion. There's a lot of nuggets in there that are great. Definitely get this book on Amazon. It's fantastic. Anyway, This is what Christopher Ehret has to say. He says, in the case of iron working, the earliest dated sites in the world for the smelting of iron, going back 4,000 or possibly more years, are located in the Central African Republic and neighboring parts of Cameroon in the middle of the continent. So that's a big statement right there. That's a huge statement. That's huge. That's absolutely a paradigm shifter in African history. It's a huge paradigm. I'm sorry. It's a paradigm shifter in world history. That changes everything. That changes the history books. Now, are the history books going to change because of this? I don't know. Is it going to happen anytime soon? I doubt it. But it is a paradigm shifter, a huge one. And to my knowledge, this is the first time this particular this information has been, I guess, recorded in literature that's focused on African history. So it might be this information might be in other books. They may like briefly mention it. I don't know. But in a book that's dedicated to just African history, that's the first time I've ever seen it personally. Don't quote me on it. It may be in other books, but that's the first time I've ever seen it. And where Christopher Ehret got it from, he got it from the work of what's his name, Etienne Zangato and Augustine Hall. They were the ones who actually went to the site. I think dug it up and everything, or they financed it. I don't know. They got the information somehow directly. That's the direct source where he got it from. And it's in a journal article. You can go on JSTOR and get it. Let me see exactly what the source is. I've quoted this like so many times in my videos. You guys are probably tired of hearing it, to be honest. It's called Etienne. So the authors are Etienne Zangato and Augustine Hall. They published this in 2010. It's called On the Iron Front: New Evidence from North Central Africa. It's in the Journal of African Archaeology. So, yeah. All right, let me get myself oriented here. Sorry about that. What book is this? This man gives me either my why you block me, persecuted racism. I don't persecuted racism. I don't know. I didn't block anybody. I don't know what you're talking about. How do they verify that this is birthplace of? That's a good question. How do they verify that? So my assumption is they do the dating, and if their dating comes back to be older than what we know so far, then they take it from there ultimately. Like right now they're talking about this discovery essentially in the literature. Most of the scholars that I see, they seem to accept this at face value. I'm sure it's going to take some time for them to accept it. I don't know, but this is the information. This is what they found. It's been about, you just have to be in the, yeah, Michael. Okay, I'm looking at the images of this discovery. Wow, great show. Really great show, but Dr. Even Van Sudden recovered this in the night. Okay, so let's delineate that. Did he say that Africans were the first to do ironworking in the 1990s? Because they just discovered this in 2010. So if he was making that claim back then, I mean, that's a pretty big claim, but I don't know. I don't know. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, Lama. We are from the Green Sahara, aka the Garden of Eden. Persecuted racism. Okay, interesting. What are the implications of iron smelting beginning in Africa? Man, iron smelting is huge. Like iron smelting was like a paradigm. No, I don't want to say a paradigm shifter. It was one of the biggest moments in human history, in my personal opinion. Like the stages of human development or civilization, if you will, in general is like, the Stone Age, Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. And in each age, humans advanced. They got more civilized, so to speak. So I think that's pretty significant. I think there's a negative sort of, man, this is complicated. Okay, so for example, when the people, the Soninka people, when they started doing iron, they were one of the first people in West Africa to really utilize iron to make weapons, and so they were kind of able to to unify their group and to create the first empire in Africa. Um, you can say that's positive or negative. I don't know, but basically, iron was huge. It was a huge moment in human history, and for Africans to have been the ones who independently invented it first, that's significant because what do they tell us? They said ironworking or iron smelting was founded in Anatolia or Turkey, in modern day Turkey. So, so that that's a good point, Michael. Racists like to say we learned it from them. So here's what Etienne Zangato and Augustine Hall said in their actual paper, and they made a point to point this out because they knew this is the paradigm shifter, especially for it to have been Niger Congo black people to have done this. Okay, so here's a direct quote from them. I made sure that to have this here available. So this is the quote from Etienne Zangato and Augustine Hall in their 2010 article. You guys can look it up on Google. If you want me to say it again, I can say it or type it in the chat or something. They said that these sites that they found of the iron smelting, these sites of around 4,000 years ago represent the earliest ironworking yet known, not just in Africa, but anywhere in the world. They are not just too early in time, but separated by far too great a geographical distance to allow for any possible outside of Africa source for the technology. So it goes to your point, Michael, because they find this new information and it's a paradigm shifter, and then they start saying, well, maybe maybe ancient Mediterranean peoples or the ancient Greeks or the Middle Eastern people traveled down to Central Africa at one point and introduced this technology, and they were able to utilize it. And Augustine Hall and Etienne Zangato seem to have predicted sort of that reaction, and was just like, guys, like this is way too far of a geographical distance for anybody to have crossed the Sahara essentially just to introduce iron working or iron smelting. I it's really interesting, man, because like it just seems as though like say recently they discover that iron smelting began in ancient China or whatever. Is is there really anybody going to say that Native Americans crossed the sea and went into China, introduced iron smelting to them, or Europeans introduced iron smelting to the Chinese, or Middle Easterners introduced iron working? I I just highly doubt they would say something like that. I highly doubt that. Home team history, any mods? If not, can I be? No, I don't really have any mods. I have to figure out how to do that. So let me write your name down and see for next time, since you're electing to be one, Sir Hectan Mod. Okay. Yeah, I want this to be a safe place for you guys, for you guys. I don't want everybody's free to say what they want or whatever, but we want it to be as convivial as possible. Sharon Baker on the Iron Front, new evidence. Yeah, that's the source. Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate that. Black Caucasian state. Same thing they did with Germany and the Benin. Yeah, the same. They did the exact same thing with the Benin bronzes or the Benin sculptures. I don't think it's actually bronze, but the Benin sculptures. They said the ancient Greeks must have taught them this, like because it was just so beautiful. Okay, so yeah, what's significant about this discovery is ironworking again was huge on the African continent. Not just, I mean, I'm sorry, ironworking was not just huge on the African continent. It was huge Homo sapien history. Like it was a huge leap for the Homo sapiens. I don't want to say huge, but it was a big leap for the Homo sapiens in general. Like moving more towards what we are today. That's the significance of iron smelting, the discovery of iron, yada yada yada. It almost in a way created the modern world nearly in totality. We don't really use stone like that. Um, iron is big, but I'm not an expert in iron. All right, I'll say that. So maybe somebody will have a different perspective. But in my personal opinion, was a huge moment in human history. Okay, so about these sub-Saharan or these Niger Congo group of Africans is that within Africa, in particular below the Sahara, Africans skipped the Stone Age. I mean, skipped the Bronze Age and went straight into iron. So you have the Stone Age, traditionally thinking, you have the Stone Age, you have the Bronze Age, and then you have the Iron Age. All or most people throughout the world went from stone, went to bronze, and went to iron. What these Africans did, all or most, at least most of Africa below the Sahara, what they call sub-Saharan Africa, our ancestors went from the Stone Age all the way to the Iron Age. They literally skipped the Bronze Age completely. It's incredible, and you guys can look this up. This is unassailable information. I'd say that. Again, so for most of the continent, Africans leaped from the Stone Age to iron. That's absolutely incredible. Yes, bronze was used in the Sahel though. I can totally agree with that, Goku. I said for most of Africa below the Sahara, they skipped the Bronze Age. So, for example, the ancient Egyptians, they used bronze. I think the Nubians used bronze too. They didn't skip that phase for whatever reason. They went from stone, bronze, iron. But for most of Africa below the Sahara, it was stone, skip bronze, go straight into iron, and they were the first to get to iron before anybody else, according to this information. Isn't bronze as important though? I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's as important because it's in the process of the development of something bigger and better. Um, but for the Africans below the Sahara, they did not need that process. Okay, Lama, you said yes. Dr. Van Sertima is in his book, Great African Thinkers, Volume 1. Check dope essay entitled Iron in Ancient Egypt, Iron in Ancient Egyptian Empire. I have to check those out. I appreciate that, Lama Bay. I'll check that out. Goku, yes, that's true. They associate with black signs. All right, so damn, where was I? Okay, yeah. So here's another quote by Christopher Eric. I'm gonna use this book again, and I want you guys to really get this honestly. This book right here. This is a recent book on ancient Africa. I believe. Let me just look at it. What am I doing? Okay, yeah, it was published in 2023. Is that okay? The print is really small. Give me a second. I'm sorry. All right, it was published in 2023. This book is called Ancient Africa: A Global History to 300 CE by Christopher Eric. And he talks about this. He gets his information from Etienne Zangato and Augustine Hall. That's the primary source for it. When they did that dig, they found this information, they did the dating, and it was just like, man, like it was Africans who created iron smelting first. These were the first Homo sapiens to do this. He got that information for them. He made it official in his book. This is the first time I personally have seen that information in a book dedicated to African history. It could be in other books, I'm not sure. It's just the first time I've seen it personally. So let's go to page 27 in the book. This book is dope, man. And this is not the only salient information that I'm expressing now. In this book, he has a whole bunch of other jewels and gems in this book that I feel are very valuable. Okay, so on page 27, I have it highlighted here. Wow, okay, I have it highlighted here, and I'm gonna read it to you guys real quick. So, scholar Christopher Ehret is saying, yet there is still another remarkable African first in iron technology that we must take into account. As the investigations by the archaeologist Peter Smith have revealed, by the end of the first millennium BCE, African iron smelters living in the African Great Lakes region began to construct furnaces capable of generating sufficiently high temperatures to produce carbon steel directly from the smelt. And this is no small matter. Europeans did not learn to produce steel by a single step until the invention 2,000 years later in the 19th century of, of the Bessemer process. The Chinese were also ahead of the West in this respect. They had developed capacities for directly producing steel by the 11th century CE, but even their advance took place centuries after African smelters already had attained this capability. Look, that's a mouthful, but that is exceptional information. So, where's the Great Lakes region? Here's my little globe right here. And the Great Lakes region, I don't, there's a kind of like a glare. Okay. So, the Great Lakes region is in Eastern Africa. I believe it's, let me see. I can't see the lake here, but I think it's right here, like around Uganda, Kenya. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like, okay, like this region right here. So we have Africans over here, first to do iron smelting, according to the data. And over here, they were creating furnaces. Okay. So yeah, they were creating furnaces with sufficiently high temperatures. And nobody was able to do this. No other human group was able to do this until much later. First, after the Africans were doing it, I believe he said the Chinese were doing it. Now, I don't know if it's that linear, but basically he's saying the Africans were the first to create these temperatures at this level to create these furnaces capable of generating sufficiently high temperatures to produce carbon steel directly from the smelts. So I'm sure this information. There's like, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I'm sure there's technicalities in here. Like you had to, speak about it very specifically in order to get it right. And I'm not like an expert in like iron smelting, so I'm wholly reliant on what they're saying, admittedly. Um, but this information is absolutely incredible, guys. This is absolutely incredible. These are Niger Congo speakers, basically our ancestors, our direct ancestors, doing things like this. Shravan, why do you think so many people want to downplay African contributions to society? I kind of want to sit on that for a little bit, man. I feel like honestly, that question has so many layers. I can bring in sort of an ancient perspective, theory of mine, and I can bring in more of like a modern perspective. I think ultimately what weighs more, I would say, is because Africans were enslaved and we were used to build wealth for nations all across the world. You can't have these people competing with you in any way. You can't have these people being viewed as human or equal to. So you have to continue the narrative that they are less than, they are cursed, or they are unequal to ultimately. And you have to bar them from competition. You have to bar them from gaining some sort of knowledge of self. You have to bar them from thinking that they are worthy ultimately. That's the best way I can answer your question right now, ultimately. I only asked that question because I got in an argument with somebody with that question, and he brought up math, and I was like, Africans created. Yeah, they say the Shango bone was like the first instance of humans participating in math, pretty much. I've heard that before. I've done a video on that before as well. So I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it, but yeah, man. Yeah, so that's my perspective. I can, delineate further in the video because I have different perspectives on it. I think, yeah, it's complicated. It's layered, but I think that may weigh a little more. That idea I just presented. Um, yeah, so and it goes into also what I want to talk about as well. Like, I'm sorry, I think there's a car beeping outside. Um, I appreciate that, Trevor. Yeah, you slapped that on me, man. I appreciate it, bro. It's all good. It's all good, man. Um, yeah, so principally because they wanted to use people of African descent to build their wealth, man, you got to denigrate them. You can't have them competing with you in any way, shape, or form. And so I wanted to talk about the lives of Europeans that affect us today as well, because this information ties into those lies ultimately. But I'm gonna get to the super chat. I appreciate that. The African Triforce, thank you so much. The talking, yeah, I think from nothing did a video on that. The talking drum was an even more impressive technology. Our ancestors had the precursor to the telegram hundreds of years before everyone else. Interesting. Yeah, I think from nothing did a video on that. I've actually honestly never really looked into that. So I'm gonna look into that now. The talking drum. I appreciate that. I've definitely heard about it before. I just never got into it, but or researched it. Thank you so much for bringing that into the conversation, man. So okay, so I've heard one time that it was actually a white guy who said this. I forgot where I heard it, but he was saying that like because he took a course in like African drumming, and he said like, bro, like it was the most complex thing he had ever done in like his career essentially. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Like you may think just beating the drums like a simple thing and creating music, but there's actually a lot of layers to it and it's complex from what he said, if I recall correctly. So, they try and tell us, what they try to do is they try to put us in their intellectual framework. And there's nothing wrong with a European or Eurocentric intellectual framework. That's how they existed for thousands of years, right? But when you try and place somebody else into your framework and they don't fit, and then you try and say they are less than and unequal to, you run into some big problems. You run into some really big problems. And that's why Europeans and anthropologists, especially in travelers to Africa, European travelers to Africa, they encounter they encountered a lot of cognitive dissonance because they would see something that's like, whoa, this kind of looks intelligent. This kind of looks on our level. And one of the examples that we spoke about earlier were the Benin sculptures. They looked at these sculptures. It was very intricate, is well designed, well made. It took a lot of intelligence to do, obviously. It took a lot of hard work. It took purposed field work to do. Um, and it was just like, okay, well, the Greeks had to have shown them this because ain't no way the people we enslaved did this. It makes no sense. So they encounter a lot of cognitive dissonance because um, they were trying to place us in their intellectual framework, and we don't fit in that intellectual framework. We fit in our own intellectual framework, and that's why it's so important that we need to teach our kids that we live in this Western society. We live in a European intellectual, Eurocentric intellectual framework, and just because they say you don't fit here does not mean you can't invent. Does not mean you cannot be great. Does not mean you can't be like them or better. And we're not trying to be like them, but you had to understand that like we've been inculcated in a Western mindset. I myself have, and I believe you have as well. And so when we feel as though we don't fit, we can't feel insecure about that. We can't feel less than about that. That's why it's so important for us to understand our history. We did things in a different way. All humans did things in a different way. The Chinese intellectual framework doesn't really fit in a European intellectual framework. Their philosophy is different, their inventions are different. Everybody has a different perspective on how to advance, and that's okay. Anyway, I kind of went on a tangent there, but so the greatest one of the greatest minds from Europe. He's a European philosopher. His name is David Hume. Have you guys heard of David Hume, by the way, and Immanuel Kant? They were like European philosophers. Anyway, so David Hume, he said in a quote, and this kind of goes to the lies of that Europeans were kind of spreading. He said, I am apt to suspect the Negroes and in general all other species of men to be naturally inferior to whites. There never was a civilized nation of any complexion than white. And this is one of their greatest minds. Like he's celebrated even to this day. Now, obviously, some of them may, be like, okay, he's a man of his time or whatever. Got it. Understood. I get that. But I'm just, revealing some of the things he said so you can get an understanding of just the general European sentiment and framework. I mean, this is not just European. This was, people in the Middle East felt the same way because they enslaved Africans as well. And so again, when you enslave these people, they cannot be on your level. Like they can't be in order for you to sleep at night, if you will. Um, so you had to denigrate them. You had to dehumanize them. And they absolutely cannot compete with you in any way, in any form of human activity, ultimately. So yeah, David Hume said this, and when we read this, it's just kind of like, especially with discoveries like even before this discovery, by the way, but especially with discoveries like this, it's just kind of like, wow, man, you kind of see how the world is created by fiction. A lot of the world. There's a quote by Yuval Harari. He wrote a book called *Sapiens*. I mentioned this before. He said, every imagined hierarchy disavows, man, he said something like, yeah, every imagined hierarchy disavows its fictional origins and claims to be normal or inevitable. And so what David Hume here is doing is he's creating this imaginary hierarchy, saying that white is on top. If you have white skin, you have civilization. The darker your skin, the less civilization you have, or non-civilization you have. And it's pure fiction. It's pure fiction. Interesting. Um, Great content, sir. Keep going. I could be wrong, but didn't the Romans complimented Ethiopia? Uh, Romans complimented Ethiopia. So what I think is that they inherited a lot of the Greek literature, and a lot of the Greek literature were romanticizing Ethiopians, and so the Romans inherited that model. Um, I I guess I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Michael says YouTube bots in the chat. Okay, so I probably got to get some moderators soon. I want you guys to have a good experience. The Romans described the German people as barbaric, and it's crazy you say that, Stephen, because I wanted to do a video on that. I mean, a live talking about that, because I did a video about one of our African philosophers. I forget his name, but I'm gonna talk about him again. And he literally said the same point you're making right now. I'll delineate it in the live in the video, or I'll delineate it in the live what he said specifically, but basically the same route you're going towards. Right, all of Africa was known as Ethiopia. Yeah, for the most part. Shin said Greeks called Ethiopians burnt head. Ethiopia is pretty. I think the Greek term Ethiopian means of burnt face, I believe. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. Um, is it derogatory? Of burnt face. Ah, I guess. Because I know in Kenya, like I don't want to say the first time they encountered white people, but or Europeans or whatever, they called them the people. What was it? The raw meat people or something like that, because they said their skin looks like raw meat. Look, I mean, it's just a human thing, man. Like these, I don't know if it's derogatory. Like it's your first time seeing a white person. It's your first time seeing a black person. Like it's gonna be a bit alarming. Like it just is. So is it derogatory? Sure, but there are a lot more things that we need to be concerned about when it comes to systemic racism, structural racism. If you hurling insults, all right, whatever, cool. But if you're trying to come over here and take what we have, take our resources, and enslave us, that's a problem. That's a bigger problem, I would say. Hey, brother, love the channel and the videos. Just jumped on the live, got to rewind, but wanted to acknowledge you. Appreciate that, FL boy or Florida boy, fly boy, not sure. Crackers, y'all are wild, man. All right, guys. But yeah, man, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to get your insight. I mean, your take on. Have you guys heard this? I mean, if you've been watching my channel, you've heard these quotes before, or you've heard this information before. Hey, home team, I found my final conclusion about the original Black North Africans. I believe the missing piece is the Mari people that moved out of Egypt toward the Levant and pre-Morocco. I've never heard of the Mari people. Can you give me Mari people? Mari people. If you can give me more information or direct me to maybe a source I can learn more about that, or original Black North Africans. Interesting. Just wanted to give respect and say that you do a great, thorough job, bro. Then appreciate that, AL. Appreciate that. I heard the new name. I heard the new name Africa means burning souls. Afri burn, Ka souls. The name came from the Greeks, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, somebody was talking about my last live was Akabalon, the name that Africans gave the continent. That's one of the things I really don't appreciate in our community when we call Africa Akabalon, because it's 100% not an African word for the continent. But yeah, I'm not sure to address your point directly. Afri burn, castles, I have no idea. I've never heard that before. That's interesting. What was the discovery, by the way? So Goku, we talked about like I'm talking to Goku. So we talked about iron smelting being discovered in Central Africa, essentially. One of the sources was Christopher Ehret, but the original source was scholars Etienne Zangato and Augustine Hall, an article they did in 2010. And they said this was the birthplace of iron smelting in human history. So, that's pretty big, a paradigm shifter. Is it going to change history books? I don't know. I know some scholars right now currently are kind of getting more acclimated to the idea that this may be true. But, who knows? But I think it's true. And I think they're just like in the process of confirming it. I don't know if it's gonna, be disseminated throughout popular culture, but that's what they found. And I don't think it would be as controversial if they found it in India or China. I'll just say that. But that's just me. What's going on, Daryl? I see you in here, man. What's going on? Yeah, so like I was saying earlier like I was saying earlier in this live. I want to try and do lives every Monday and Friday. Kind of enter into the week with a live, good energy, good vibes, and then end out the week with good energy and good vibes for the most part. Yeah. So let me see. How is an objective truth about burnt or dark skin and insults? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think now, like today, if somebody were to be like, "Oh, you burnt skin" or whatever, that would probably be an insult. But people back then in like ancient times, if you're a Greek person and you meet a man from the Sudan, it's gonna be like, wow, his skin is burnt. Like, what happened to you? Like, that's gonna be the perspective. I mean, I just think it's honest. Um, same thing in reverse. Like, there were Africans, like I said, the most recent example I've seen where we actually have a documented, first reaction, if you will, was when I have to find the source for you guys, but I do remember um, it was somewhere in Kenya where they called them like raw meat people or something like that, or the people who have skin that looks like raw meat or something. That can be super offensive. But it's like if you come from a dark skinned people, yeah, your skin kind of looks like raw meat. That's just what it is. It's honest. So let's just try and put things in perspective, as best we can. Home team, not sure if you peeped my question, but what you think the future of the South Confederation? Man, Ibrahim Traore, man. I'm not shaking my head because I'm like in disagreement or anything. I'm just like really, really proud of my man Ibrahim Traore, man. Like I'm really proud. Like I really hope everything I'm seeing is true, like what he's doing and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I haven't really done my research on it to be honest, but the dude seems solid. One of the things I'm excited about Africa for in general, not just Ibrahim Traore, Africa is a really young continent from what I can tell. It's one of the youngest, if not the youngest, continent on the planet. The young people population, whatever. Um, and I feel like he instantiates that because he's one of the youngest leaders, and I think he's the youngest in Africa right now on the continent, and he's bringing a totally different energy. Like the energy has completely shifted with him, and it's not surprising that it's Burkina Faso because we had Thomas Sankara in the past, and I really hope we don't continue, those patterns of the past. It seems as though we're not. Um, yeah, I'm really. I don't want to say I'm nervous about Ibrahim Traore. My heart is right there, with him, his people, and Africans in general. Like we seem the diaspora out of the African continent. We all seem very proud. We all seem very excited um, about Ibrahim Traore, and it seems as though he's really protected. I don't know if one of the reports are true that homeboy was paid this amount of money to try and assassinate him. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently it is. I'll take it at face value. And he said, no, I'm not doing it type of thing. So like when we stop, taking the money, that's a big sign, man. We have to control our resources as Afro-descendant people. Um, appreciate that. I think that's I'm sorry about the pronunciation. Appreciate the super chat. Did you know since 1950 Africa has had uh, psh, I haven't done that research, but I would not be surprised, man. I would not be surprised. Appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I don't know why my thing is lower. Okay. Also, by the way, Ibrahim was the same age as. Are you serious? Oh, really? Huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel you, Trevon. I gotta look that up. He was the same age. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. What's up, Kiani? Just tuning in. I'm just listening. Love your content. Keep up the good work. One disagreement: the concept of sub-Saharan is a misnomer created to separate dark-skinned Africans. Okay, I've never heard that before, but okay, I appreciate that perspective. Yeah, like to be honest, I don't necessarily have a problem with sub-Saharan. I wish they kept that energy with different regions as well. Maybe they do. I don't know. But sub-Saharan definitely has a negative connotation. I'm not sure if it's a negative connotation because, it's like a code word for you know what. But um, yeah, because usually in my videos you hear me say Africans below the Sahara. I try to avoid saying sub-Sahara. Um, I even thought about using the word Upper Africa. Like we need to create names for ourselves. By the way, um, like when we talk about Africa, we had to have our own language for it. And yeah, so I'm open to what you guys, have in stock. Somebody, critique me as well when it comes to Egypt, because in all my videos I always say Egypt, 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 and they're just like, oh man, you using that Eurasian name, um, not Eurasian, using that Greek name. Why are you this? Why are you that? Like Egypt is Kemet. Like what's going on? Why can't you say Kemet? Here's here's where it gets complicated. So we have that energy for Egypt, man. And like if we're gonna have that energy for Egypt, have that energy for the rest of the continent as well. Because the Mandinka people did not call their empire the Mali Empire. They called it the Manden Kurufaba. The griots called it Manden Kurufaba. The same thing for the Benin Empire. Like the word Benin is a Portuguese corruption of the word Ubini or whatever. And even then, it was the Yoruba who called the Edo Empire Ubini or something like that. I'll have to look that up again. But it's the Yoruba named it Bini or something like that, and that was derogatory. So it gets complicated. So if I keep that energy for Egypt, I have to keep that energy for the rest of the continent. I don't necessarily have a problem doing that. It's just that, people aren't really gonna know what I'm talking about sometimes. And like to have to tell you like, oh, LA Ubini was Benin, LA Ubini was Benin. I'm talking about the Mali Empire, Menden Kurufaba, yada yada yada. I guess I can do it. I guess I can. And if you guys would like me to do it, then I could. But the issue I have principally is that, hey, you tell me to use Kemet, but you don't have that same energy for Mali or Benin or other African empires and kingdoms. All the names that we know now um, are what's the word? Westernized. These are westernized African names. I hope you guys, can understand that and empathize a little bit with me here. But I get it. Look, I get it. I can start saying Kemet. I just want you guys to kind of know like what we're doing. Like one of the reasons why I started the channel is because people have this monomania surrounding Egypt, and I'm just like we have a whole continent here, and Egypt took a lot of the Africanisms from below the Sahara and the Western Sahara and made and perfected it and created something incredible. So to me, Egypt isn't this sui generis entity, isn't this unique sort of empire or kingdom or state. The Egyptians were taking from the people around them, from the Africans around them. So if I put more respect on their name compared to others, like to me that's kind of lame. And I hope you guys can understand that. But let me know if that makes sense to you. Like, because I try to keep the same energy when it comes to Africa. I say Egypt, yes, it's a Greek name. I say Mali, yeah, that's more of a westernized or whatever name. Benin, Portuguese corruption. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. I don't get the obsession with trying to claim Egypt, and I'm the only one here claiming. Interesting. Hey, so I don't. Yeah, I don't feel like I hype up Egypt too much. Neither do I try to like fall back away from Egypt. Like I think yes, I think Egypt was the greatest civilization in Africa. Yes, 100%. But to say that I have to acknowledge Kush, to say that I have to acknowledge the Western Sahara, to say that I have to acknowledge all the cultures that contributed to Egypt, what? And I'm gonna make a live on this in another time. It's gonna be dope. But one of the things that made Egypt, what was I gonna say? um, Yeah, one of the things that makes Egypt so incredible to me is that the people of Egypt, they took and borrowed from the Africans around them and made something special. They made something incredible. And you have to give the people of Kemet credit for that. No other African did that. So I bang with Kemet for that. Like Kush wasn't able to do that, but they were the originators of many things. And I'm gonna talk about this later. I guess I'll give you a little teaser. In my opinion, from what I'm seeing, and this is my theory. This is a theory, guys. The first writing form in Africa, in my personal opinion, came from like northern Sudan area, and the Egyptians took it and perfected it and made something great. That's a little teaser, and I'll give you my evidence for that a little later. So, but y'all don't have to try and debunk me now. Just wait until I do the live. Be patient. We're gonna talk about that. But yeah, I hope you guys can understand my perspective though. By the way, Nubians are East African, and so are the Kemetic people or real Egyptians. Please clarify. Yeah, Nubians are Eastern African. I would say, yeah. I have no problem with that. I guess you want me to clarify. Okay, yeah. That's debated by modern day Egyptians that they got anything from Africa. Right. Yeah, anything with every time I've done a video in North Africa, it has always been controversial. Like when I say controversial, I mean like people always come at me, like constantly on every video I've done, anything relating to North Africa and Black people's agency in North Africa. Every time, it never fails. Kush predates Kemet. That deserves some delineation. I would say yes, but the way you're titling it is because Kush didn't really exist until like the unification of Kemet happened before we even heard the word Kush before, if that makes sense to you. But Kush existed, I guess. Like there were people there, and they contributed to the idea of kingship. They contributed to. Did you? Man, there's so much. Maybe I'm being a little bit pedantic, but I agree with you, Shoddy Roddy. Just yeah, yeah, I agree with you. So yeah, so the Egyptians in the Old Kingdom, they used to bury their dead. Uh, they used to bury their kings and their servants into the same tomb, essentially, which is horrifying. I'm not gonna lie, that's horrifying. If you're a servant of the king and then he dies, you got to go with him. That's horrifying. And that practice came from Kush. It wasn't called Kush back then, but it came from Tasseti, like a northern Sudanese tradition. Um, so yeah, Tasseti is older, right? Exactly. So yeah, these were the same people. These were the same culture. Like, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is like New York or New Jersey. Like, okay, that's okay. That was a bad example, but these were essentially the same people. And then over time, the Egyptians perfected their civilization, created more of an identity of their own. Newer people started coming in, created different language, yada yada yada. Um, yeah, it's very stratified history, and it can be very complicated to understand. But if you get the basics right, I think you have a good foundation. Anyway, so I'm just kind of rambling right now, but hopefully you guys, if you guys missed what this discussion was about, you can go back to the video, go back throughout the video and take a look, guys. But yeah, like please support Josh, please support Playwatch, please support myself and trying to get this channel to the next level with this new animation that I released to you guys. It was kind of like a teaser. It wasn't a full animation, but the video, African mythological creatures, is a teaser to what this channel is trying to be, is trying to become. And I think we should back that and support that your money on Patreon is literally going to create that type of animation and the quality of this work, so that this history channel can be pretty competitive with the other history channels, because African history is just as valuable, just as interesting, and we need the quality to go up. I need the quality to go up, because I've been pretty stagnant with the sort of quality that I'm doing. I'm not really an editor like that, guys. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I'm just I'm just trying to do my best with what with what I have. I apologize about that. I'm trying to do my best with what I have, and I have a team now that can create this animation, and they need to be funded. So take a look at that video on African mythology. That's the direction we're headed in. It looks like anime. It's an incredible. Josh does incredible work, guys. So keep supporting, guys. I know you guys had a lot to say. There were a lot of comments that I missed. There were a lot of questions that I missed. I apologize for that. I rock with you guys. Thank you for rocking with me. Honestly, have a good weekend. All right. I'm gonna see you guys later. Peace.